Oh man, modern gaming strikes again. Another day, another crappy product is vomited onto the Steam marketplace that destroys the legacy of a once great franchise. 20 years ago, the originals ran perfectly on ancient hardware, while the 2024 Classic Collection barely works on release. The originals took up only a fraction of the storage space, while the 2024 Classic Collection is asking for more than 20 times that amount. And to top it all off, they're charging $35 for the Classic Collection, twice the price of the originals, all for double the bugs and issues. Just last month, we collectively witnessed the car crash that was the launch of Skull and Bones, a game that spent 11 years in development just to come out half-baked. And now, we see the desecration of Star Wars Battlefront through yet another horrific launch and series of insulting business practices that spits in the face of their customers. I admit, I didn't have the chance to play the original Battlefront games. I wasn't even capable of stringing together full sentences in 2004. But regardless, it's painful to see such a beloved game have its legacy tarnished by another botched launch and half-baked end product release. This video will be a short case study on the failures of Aspyr and their newly released Star Wars Battlefront Classic Collection. Also, in the background you'll notice that there are a collection of clips and screenshots from the newly released game. These will all be unedited, which should give you an idea of how the new game actually plays and runs. It's pretty self-explanatory, so you be the judge here. Among the deluge of complaints levied against the Classic Collection, the most egregious center around two key issues. The first is the failure to properly project player counts. I'm sure you've heard that the server issues were bad, but let me hit you with the numbers. Around 10,000 players were waiting to get into the game and play, but Aspyr only created 3 64-player servers available on launch day. And honestly, no wonder why fans are pissed. You'd have less than a 2% chance of playing the game that you paid for on launch day. To put that into perspective, you'd have a better chance at being accepted into Harvard University than you would actually getting into a server and playing the game that you paid for on launch day. It honestly confuses me how this was the projection that they locked in when even the original game that was released in 2004 and 2005 had a peak player base of around 4,700 players. Let's not even talk about peak players here. Even now, almost 20 years after the game's original release, around 900 people are still playing the original Battlefront 2. Again, putting this into perspective, even if we take 900 as the number of players waiting to play the Classic Collection on launch, that would still make Aspyr's server projections and player counts come up painfully short. There must have been a communications or planning failure somewhere along the line because I genuinely can't wrap my head around how Aspyr arrived at this number. This is made even worse by the brief, unempathetic, painfully corporate response Aspyr provided to the backlash. Let's take a look. Looking through the statement, it doesn't even acknowledge the complete miss on Aspyr's part to properly forecast the number of players logging in, but instead points the blame at critical errors with our network infrastructure, which doesn't really say all that much. However, credit where credit is due, it seems that the issue has been rectified to some extent with quick action from Aspyr, with publications confirming that more servers have been added to cope with the influx of players. That said, this doesn't speak to the stability and the playability of the game, as you can probably observe from the video clips that I've been sharing throughout this video. Even with that being the case, this doesn't change the fact that gamers are tired of being hoodwinked and lied to. Selling people a half-finished product is an ultimately unsustainable business model. The other issue here is the baffling size of the Classic Collection compared to its predecessors. Let's talk numbers again. On Steam, the Classic Collection takes up about 72.58 GB of storage space, whereas the original games, again released in the mid-2000s, only required a total of 7.3 GB combined. Looking at the gameplay clips, nothing much seems to have changed, at least on the graphical front. The game's visuals look like something I'd be playing on my dusty PS2 tucked away in my uncle's house. After doing a little bit more research, it seems that the games themselves haven't been changed all that much mechanically either, staying relatively true to the originals. With this being the case, why is the freaking game so huge? All 50 extra gigabytes can't be used for anti-cheat or DRM only, right? Aspyr has not provided an update on this just yet, but it's frustrating that there has been no statement or acknowledgement from the studio about this issue, as opposed to the lack of servers, which was addressed relatively quickly, although in a fairly lackluster manner. I speculate that the game is huge due to poor optimization, but we can't really get any confirmation on this at this point in time. What I'm really looking forward to is how Aspyr deals with this situation, as they've proven that they can react quickly to crisis, as covered in the previous section where we talked about the server issues. This will be a much trickier problem though, considering that optimizations and reducing the game's size isn't something that can be done overnight or over the course of just a few weeks. As it stands, it is unacceptable that a game that looks and plays exactly like the originals released nearly 2 decades ago requires so much more storage space for functionally the same product. We'll just have to wait and see how things go, and I'll continue to cover this story as time passes. In the meantime, many people in the community have called the game out for being one of the worst launches of all time, which is a really big thing to say considering that Skull and Bones came out literally a month ago and Payday 3 came out a few months before that. I'm not sure that their opinion is wrong, but it does lend some insight into gamers' frustrations with modern gaming. In its current state, however, the Classic Collection is sitting at an overwhelmingly negative review rating on Steam, and it'll likely be a very long time before things get better, if they ever do. The worst part about this situation in my eyes is the train wreck was completely avoidable. There was no rush to put out this title, and honestly, Aspyr could have spent more time preparing the game for release and saved themselves from the PR nightmare that they have now waltzed themselves into. This is compounded by the fact that even if Aspyr manages to fix the game, it likely will not remove the stain of the game's infuriating launch week and baffling size requirements on release. Ultimately, all this does is hamper the game's chance of ever seeing commercial success, which benefits no one in the long run. Gamers get even more frustrated with the state of the industry, and industry professionals waste time developing a game that very few people will ever play. Hopefully, this serves as a reminder to Aspyr and other developers to prioritize the things that matter, rather than rushing out a half-baked game and alienating your customers. Hey, thank you for sticking around till the end. I'm honestly so stoked that my videos have been seen by thousands of people, and honestly it really feels pretty surreal to me, and I can't wait to continue producing more stuff that I know you guys will enjoy. Please do let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer every single comment as much as possible. Like the video if you enjoyed it, and please subscribe to let me know if this is the kind of content that you want to see more of going forward. Thank you so much and have a beautiful day.